Hello and welcome. My name is Danielle Boardley, and I am the Director of Diversity, Inclusion, and Student Belonging at the Drexel University Thomas R. Kline School of Law. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for this discussion about the anti-racism conversation and initiative that the law school has been pulling together as a community, but specifically our Diversity and Inclusion Committee and our Student Bar Association. A little bit about myself. Prior to being in this role, I was previously the Director of Diversity. I'm sorry, that's what I am now. I was the Director of Admissions and Diversity Initiatives at the law school, and still work very closely with our admissions team. And so excited to see the number of you who are on with us, and hopefully we will see your application in the system. I just want to invite you, if you're comfortable, to come onto camera and allow us to see your smiling faces if you're comfortable with that. If you're not, I totally understand, but hope to engage with you in this conversation. I've been at the university for about 15 years now in several different roles, and all of them leads me to the student body. I am very much a people person and absolutely love engaging with students. And in my position over the last several years, and even with the current one, being able to see students reach their potential and being a part of the gateway community that allows students into the law school, but into their life's passion is something that I really appreciate and look forward to, and it's something that wakes me up and gets me going every day. I'd like to now take a moment to allow my Student Bar Association members to introduce themselves, and then we'll get a little bit further into the conversation. So we'll start with Abhinandan.
Hi everyone, I'm Abhinandan. I'm a 3L, I'm a global JD student, and I'm the president of the Student Bar Association. Katie?
Hi all, I'm Katie Bell. I am a second-year law student, and I am the Vice President of Student Affairs for the SBA.
Hi everybody, I'm Sandra Graise. I am a 3L, and I am the Vice President of Finance.
If both of you, Abhinandan and Sandra, if you don't mind sharing with us what the role of the Student Bar Association is in this particular initiative, as well as just generally in law school.
Sure, Sandra, you want to start, or should I go ahead?
I'll defer to you, Mr. President.
It's the same. So the Student Bar Association is it's analogous to a student government. We represent the students. We have representatives from each year, the first, second year, and third year. And the second and the third year basically make the executive board. I'm part of the executive board, and I'm a third-year law student. Sandra and Richard, who's not with us right now, they're the vice president. Sandra is the vice president of student affairs of finance, and Katie is the vice president of student affairs. So this is how the executive body is made, and we have liaisons which work with the bar associations, like the Pennsylvania Bar Association, the Philadelphia Bar Association, and the American Bar Association. So as you can see that we have branches and we have ties with the Bar Association, with the administration, and we also cater to the student organization. So we not just organize academic events, we organize cultural events also, and we organize extracurricular events. For example, we do Cocktails for a Cause, where we pick up a cause and we collect money, where we invite the professors to basically bartend. So that's one of the things that we do. Then we also have, this year, we have anti-racism conversations started with the Diversity and Inclusion Committee of the law school. And since the current affairs kind of spearheaded, made us do that, and Katie is kind of spearheading that initiative. So we, as a student body, take into the current events, we work with the student body for and together with these current events.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I mean, Abhinandan always does a great job of encompassing everything. But basically, we're kind of the link into between the student body themselves and sectors of the administration. I mean, when you need I'm obviously the vice president of finance, so I handle all finance requests, student organizations, um, and you can create your own student organizations, but student organizations who have been created, they each get an allotted specific amount of money to go forth and, you know, prosper in the university and do their events essentially. And a big part of what we do has to do with connecting the administration with the student organization needs. We have bi-weekly meetings with the dean of students, so we try to bring as many concerns and voice as many opinions as much as possible during these hour-long meetings every 2 weeks essentially. So we try to serve as much as possible as a link and as a voice to whoever wants to opinionate.
Thank you both. Katie, can you share with us all a little bit more about the ARC, what we've been calling it, the anti-racism conversation, and what this description of the initiative is, and a little bit more about, you know, why it's important to you as a student, but also as an SBA member?
Of course. So just a brief overview. We've been calling it ARC, the anti-racism conversations or discussions, whichever works best for us. They are essentially a series of casual community-based discussions that we have spread throughout the entire academic year to make sure we don't just do it when it's popular and when it's on the news, but we actually continue this type of work and discussions into the future. And these are very casual conversations with professors and faculty members and fellow students about topics of racism and oppression. And each week, each session has a different theme. I believe next session is all about racism inherent in the sci-fi and fantasy novels, which I'm very excited about. But our goal basically with these discussions is to help people find the tools and gain practice thinking analytically about our communities and our roles within them.
And just to kind of delve a little bit further into that as well, we kind of pulled and derived this content from the 21-day anti-racism challenge that several Black deans at different law schools pulled together. This content ranges from articles to TED Talks to YouTube videos. And as Katie mentioned, our community as a whole comes together to discuss the material. We review it in advance and then come together to discuss the material from our own perspective. So what I've been trying to encourage is that no one is the expert on the subject, but we are all experts of ourselves. And when we come forward, we're sharing from our perspective how the content, impacted us individually and how it impacts us socially and within our community at the law school. It is our hope that with engaging in this material, not only do we have a conversation or a discussion, but that we actually go out and act upon what we've learned. And in our different circles of influence, the way that we move forward, we hope to be, an impact on society at large through those actions. It could be for us as, for the students, having a conversation with a family member to help them understand the perspective of someone who does not look like them. For me, it might be having conversations with my colleagues on different levels within the university community and how that might impact change and affect change throughout the university and not just within the law school. So it's important for us all to engage in the material from our own perspective and then see how we can then impact our areas of influence beyond the law school and beyond ourselves. So I just wanted to hear from our SBA members what you feel like the culture of the law school community is and what stands out to you about our community and the culture within our community. And that's open to any of you.
I can start because since I come from a altogether different cultural background because I'm from India, and one thing that I didn't have any. I was like a clean slate. So when I came here, and I was happy to see that it's a very welcoming culture. It's a very supportive culture in many ways, because I consider that my friends are kind of like my family because I'm away from home. So wherever I am right now, maybe in SP or doing well in academics or doing well in co-curriculars and moot court and everything, is because there's a backbone or there's a support that I know my friends are there to hold my back. So I think it's a very welcoming and supportive culture, not just from the friends, but also from the professors, that you can knock on the door and you can just talk to them and discuss any problems or any issues with them. So that's what I feel. Katie or Sandra, whoever wants to go.
Mine is pretty much the same, more or less, as yours, Abhi. I knew that I wanted a law school community that I could trust, and I had heard that a lot of law school communities, you got to watch your back, and you might not be able to trust everyone that you meet because they're going to want to get a better grade on the curve than you. And I had heard, and I have felt since, that Drexel is one of the law schools where you can trust the students around you. If you need help, you can go to them and know that you're getting good information and know that they will help you. And that is incredibly valuable to me.
And just to add on to that, I don't want to be the dead horse, but it's a very expressive culture where everyone's very open, and not only do you feel free to just state your opinion and just be out there, but you'll know that someone's there to listen, whether it be one of your friends or colleagues or the professors as well. There's basically at this point it's a virtual open door policy, but it's an open door policy at this point, and it's extremely comforting and just attractive for law students.
And considering, the rigors of law school and all that you're taking in, what are some of the challenges that law students face in the classroom as it relates to race and racism from your perspective?
Well, what I can think is that I haven't really delved into that as much, but what I can think is that when a person of color or different race is sitting in the classroom, they are coming with their own perspective. They're coming with their own background, right? And when it comes to, like, for example, in torts, we are taught like a reasonable person standard. Do they consider a reasonable white person standard, or do they consider a reasonable person standard in general, whether it's irrespective of race? And while they say that you have to see the objectivity to it, but I don't think everyone is really objective when one is sitting in the class, listening to a lecture, answering a cold call, or answering in the exam, because you have your own background, you bring your own story with it. So I think that that understanding and that working with the material and that struggle with the material, I think would be there.
Sandra or Katie, do you want to expound on that at all? What are some of the challenges maybe in the readings that you see from your perspective that may be affecting or impacting you as a law student?
I think it's just, and just in general as a whole, readings included, law school is just a whole different beast. And just as a person coming in with, I mean, we've all gone through undergrad, but it's different challenges, especially because you're dealing with, again, and this is a double-edged sword. People are expressive, so it can go both ways, and you have to make sure that you're standing your ground and just dealing with it one day at a time, whether it be related to comments related to readings or whether it be just outside in a student org event or the likes.
Yeah, you pretty much both of you hit it on the head for me.
Yeah, I just want to add to that there should be some kind of an awareness when you're speaking in the class that who you're sitting with and who your peers are, because one cannot be just ignorant about whatever one is saying and what is going on in the world and just speak in the class. Well, because now it's online and whatever you're doing is you are accessing the internet and you know what's going on in the world. and what's going on in politics, but you can't be ignorant, and there has to be some kind of awareness of that. And also other things that I did notice when I did join law school, and normally that happens, is that a sense of groups are formed. You have, when you meet socially, it is intermingling in that sense, but when it comes to study groups, there's not much of integration and intermingling. So I think that's the struggle which I thought was there.
So how have you as SBA leadership taken this initiative and are going to make sure that it's implemented throughout the culture within the student organizations?
So I did speak to my executive board, and we have now this year, like every year it happens, we have a diversity and inclusion committee. But this year, what we are going to do is slightly different, because I felt, and also my executive members felt, that there was not adequate representation in SBA by a person of color every year. We have global JD spots, but then that's not enough. We don't have enough representation in the 1Ls, 2Ls, and 3Ls. So for that, we are probably going to change our bylaws. And we are also incorporating not just representation in the SBA, but we are also suggesting and maybe slowly enforcing representation in the student orgs. So that people can be heard and they can be part of these bodies where they can voice their opinion and they can be liaisons with the administration. So that is one aspect that I would work for representation and voicing of opinion.
Something that I'd like to point out as well, just in general, the law school will have some meetings here and there, some town hall events, if you call them. None of them, at least in my tenure, have been specifically directed at such an initiative. And that's one thing that's extremely unique with this, as Abhinandan said, with this whole, not just initiative, but the changing of the bylaws and getting more student organizations involved, that this is essentially an open space, a unique town hall that's specifically targeted towards specific material towards the this anti-racism initiative, which is, again, in my 2-year tenure, hasn't been there, and it's got to start at some point. And it's been off to a wonderful and great start with just people coming in with open minds, but also willingness to hear other people express themselves and their opinions.
What ways have you all noticed that the conversations and the way that we're handling things, specifically at our law school, in our community, is different than how these conversations took place in maybe an undergrad experience? What differences do you see there?
So my undergrad, I went to a local undergrad that was predominantly white liberal arts. And when there was a issue of racism, they treated it as an isolated incident every single time. And it's actually recently come to light, a lot of those incidences. And they pretty much did nothing about it. And even in the classroom, they talked about it in a very specific, it doesn't happen here sense, when in reality, it was kind of ingrained in the culture and it was never addressed. And therefore, because it was never addressed, it could never be, fixed or helped or anything like that. And that's why I think these conversations can really be helpful in the community at Drexel now, is if there are issues, maybe we can do something about it and address it and talk about it.
And I'm personally thinking back to my undergrad. I went to a fairly large undergraduate institution, public university. And another thing that's, and I'm combining everything here, but another thing that's unique about Drexel Law School is that we're a relatively small group. It's 100 and something in the class. So you know one another, but not just that, it's easier to set up this sort of initiative and get a lot more people involved and get different sides of it. And that's something that's extremely unique and extremely valuable, especially when trying to start up these conversations, because not only are you able to start it up with ease, but you're also able to get a lot more people involved and a lot more people's opinions to the topic.
So my personal final question, but I'm also after this going to open it up to our guests to see if they have any direct questions for us, is why is this particular initiative, the anti-racism conversations, why is it important to you personally?
I'm just reminded of what late Justice Ginsburg said, fight for things that you care about, but do it in a way that others join you for that fight. So I think it's important, and whatever has happened in the past couple of months, and as to be lawyers, we think we should take a stand, and starting this conversation is the first step towards that. Changing things in our bylaws, another step towards that. If we start at the smaller level, then only we can go to the macroscopic level. That's what I feel.
I'm just gonna simply just say it's overdue. Somebody had to do it at some point, and you got to start somewhere. So why not start here and now?
I also think, like, personally, as a white woman, I don't think that not educating myself about these issues it's not an option at this point. I can't claim to care about the people in my community if I continue to be willfully ignorant and complicit in a system that harms them.
And for me, being within this community for the time that I have, and seeing these issues constantly over the years, but actually doing something about it with a group of students who are passionate and have purpose behind it, has been personally rewarding to not only be a participant in, but to also just work along with the students as we come together for this initiative. As a Black woman, it's important to me that in the spaces that I'm in, especially a space that I've spent so much time in over the years, that it's important to others, especially those who don't look like me, to be part of this conversation. And seeing our community come together and rally behind this, not just students, but faculty and staff coming together and really discussing these issues at hand. And then taking it, like I said, to the next level, to the next conversation, to the classroom, to the boardroom, to home with family. That's been very, very impactful to me personally as well. We have initiated diversity and inclusion conversations for the last several years, last 3 years now, and we have them monthly. At one point, we were having them bi-weekly. So we have started the engine running and having conversations about how race and culture impacts different parts of the law. So I believe that our community was primed. And then with this particular initiative, as we're focusing in on anti-racism, we have done outreach to different student bodies through of course, the standard ways of email and putting it on blast on social media and things of that nature, but I also believe it's in relationship building and the ways in which we communicate to one another through faculty relationships, through my relationship with students, but also through what the SBA has done. And I'll open it up to them to answer how they've integrated this into the student organizations as well.
So what we did over the summer was, when we started with this initiative, was that we somewhere, because all the student orgs get the funding from the Student Bar Association, we made it mandatory for them that a part of the executive body and part of the student of their membership has to attend this initiative. And without us even saying that, without us even making that part of the bylaws, we saw a lot of participation otherwise, not just from the student orgs, but from the student body in general. And we didn't have to do much there because this topic is so raw, it is so new that everyone feels so greatly about it that we didn't have to do much. In fact, I know a couple of students who, like you said, who are timid and who don't really come forward. This being online has been a blessing in many ways because they have just come there, they've not switched on their camera, but they have participated in that conversation. And I personally know these people. I wouldn't be obviously naming them, they're my friends, but they wouldn't have come otherwise if this would have been in person. So I would say that the Zoom online thing has been a blessing in many ways.
The university has an anti-racism task force, of which I am one of the subcommittee co-chairs. And we are working to make sure that change not only happens within the university, but that we impact change outside of the university within our local community. In Philadelphia, I'm not sure if you're from the area or familiar with the area, but it's a predominantly Black community. And we're trying to make sure that the change that happens within our walls is seen outside of our walls, and that we're more open and working with the community members that we are a part of in our neighborhood. So that is also something that's in the works on a larger scale than beyond the law school.
And I just want to jump in real quick. The ARC it's a very new concept. Like Abhi said, it's due to the rawness of it. This is all very, and in a virtual environment too, it's all very new and different for all of us. And your question actually is a great kind of segue to say, like, these are the kind of discussions we need to be having. These are the kind of ideas that need to be brought out. And that's what, like, I know we're going to get off this meeting, and after we're done with classes today, we're going to get together and discuss exactly your question, how we can incorporate that virtually in this environment right now, and how, you know, whether it be you or someone who joins the community later on can integrate that down the road.
Our dean has sent out information to all of the committee heads within the law school. So our curriculum committee, folks who are in charge of pro bono, our admissions committee, and he and I have both encouraged everyone to look at every policy and practice in place to make sure that we are looking at it with an anti-racism lens. And so that we can, if it's not, then we need to go back in and make change. So I think that will also be reflected in the coming months to years, and how that review, that very intentional review of what we're doing as a community, and how that's impacting individuals, not only, you know, people of color, Black people specifically, and, you know, making adjustments and changes so that we are doing exactly what we're saying and not just, you know, all talk, basically. Thank you again, like I said, for your time and attention on this very important subject matter. And we hope to continue to grow in this area. And if you have any ideas and, you know, are looking to join our community, we look forward to having you with us and for you taking us to the next level. So thank you again.